Hello and welcome to my latest weekly video news from Madison's. Well, last week, this time, it was just starting to hit the media that there might be a possible change to property taxation. There are obviously two big ways that you are taxed on your principal private residence in this country: council tax and stamp duty when you purchase. And that is all part of a possible shake-up. The media got hold of it and it exploded as the week went on because, of course, it really goes against the fundamental basis of an Englishman's home is his castle, and that right to own your own home and not be penalised for doing so is a really integral part of our culture and our value system here, very different to on the continent. But of course, we all have so much inherent wealth locked up in our properties, and with that huge tax deficit, the huge deficit in the government spending, Rachel Reeves is looking at ways to plug it. So everything's open. A possible story of you being taxed on the sale of your principal private residence. If it's more than 500,000, you'll be taxed at, what are the figures, 0.54, 0.81 if it's 1 million or above. But they're all muted. Let's wait and see. Nothing is certain as yet. We'll wait till October and see what it brings. I often find the government has a way of starting these rumours, and then what actually comes in isn't quite so bad, but they've sort of paved the way for some bad news that isn't quite so bad when it's actually received. So nothing as yet. It's all speculation. Let's wait and see what actually happens. Two really interesting stories caught my eye this week, actually, both from a really fascinating bit of research that was done. The first one about the amount of dirty money that there is in the UK property system. So as an estate agent, you have to satisfy quite rigorous anti-money laundering checks, and many estate agents, including ourselves, actually, we're about to start charging for that because it costs us an awful lot of money. We have to verify the identity and source of funds for every buyer and also of our sellers going to market as well. So we have to pay for extra enhanced checks, which does get quite expensive. So many estate agents wanting to cover those costs, which I think is understandable. But interestingly, lots of agents not doing what they should do. And some interesting figures on this one. So Smart Search carried out this piece of research. They estimate since 2016, £11 billion of money from suspicious causes. So that could be it's money laundering, isn't it? So arms trading, drug trafficking, people trading, blackmail, extortion, all of that. £11 billion from that sort of money has flowed into the UK property system. The reason why they are suspicious about it is because they are in shell companies based in overseas territories. And 87,000 homes are now owned by anonymous firms who are registered overseas in these tax havens and have £100 billion of value of property. 40% of that property is in London. So really interesting, harsh spotlight being shined on estate agents that we need to really uphold anti-money laundering, because not only is it wrong that that illegal money gets placed into what is a very safe asset, that's called placement in the anti-money laundering world, where you make your dirty money into a clean asset, but also it's artificially, or not artificially, but inflating the values of those homes for ordinary people who can't get on the property ladder because big naughty money is flowing in. So estate agents absolutely should be doing what they should do and following regulations. Another interesting story that caught my eye was all to do with council homes and the right to buy. So obviously, as you know, once you've owned your council home for a certain amount of time, you have the right to buy it at a substantial discount. It was introduced in the 1980s by Margaret Thatcher, who wanted to encourage more home ownership. So this enormous sell-off is stock. Back in the 1980s, 30% of households were council owned. It's only 6% now. And did you know that this year, in terms of the number of purchases, they have 8 times exceeded those that were built in the previous years? Let me explain that a little bit better. A certain number of council homes were added or built, added to local authority stock last year, and that number times 8 is how many people exercised their right to buy and bought them. And 41% of council homes are now owned by the private rental sector. So not exactly the spirit of what they should be. Now, the right to buy is obviously a great initiative, and it's great that people are encouraged, but there clearly needs to be more to replace that stock to make it mean that we're not in this situation where there's just more and more stock going to private rental, and for people who really need it, they can't access the actual property. So yeah, two interesting stories that caught my eye. The business is out this week. Lovely Jennifer Irvine on the front. She heads up the conveyancing team at Cooper Burnett, great local law firm. And I am on page 70. Corker opposite me, really lovely garden company based out towards Paddock Wood. But I talk about how tricky the property market is, and I make a bit of a reference to the Lionesses. They've just won when I was writing that, so I tried to find a link. Wasn't Local Live excellent this weekend? So many gigs popping up all over the town. Really, really brilliant. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to finish with a great new property that I have just launched. It's on Bishopsdown Park Road, which is just off Molineux Park Road. So a really great spot. If you're thinking your child could get into the grammar school, then jump onto this one right now. You might just have time to get the deal to go through by the time those placements happen. And it is easy walking distance to all the great grammars and Bennett and other great secondary schools. Really beautiful 1970s styling, which I love. Built the same year that I was born. Fun fact for you. I won't tell you when that was. And on a guide of 1.25 million. It's really, really nice house. So I do hope that's of interest. Give us a call if you would like to know more. Hope you have a great week. I look forward to seeing you next week. Bye-bye.